Hello and welcome back to the Well-Fed Business Podcast with myself, Benham, and as always, the EBG. And today we're going to be talking about self-care, something that's not often spoke about within the business community, but we're going to be talking about why it's important. We're going to be talking more about the how. Everyone knows why you need to look after yourself, but we're going to be talking about ways to actually do that and things to put in place to stop yourself from reaching that point of ruin where you're all burned out, can't work anymore, hate your life, hate your family, hate your kids, hate your business, and hate everything. Does that sound good, Johnny boy?
Yeah, but I must admit, I'm very much into self-care and selfishness and stuff, but I still hate my wife and kids.
Well, they're easy to hate.
Especially Holly. You know, when she was about, 2 years old, she spent, no, less than that. We were in the old house, so she was under 2. She spent an entire weekend vomiting over me. Every time I picked her up, she went, bleh, all over me. This is true. The thing is, parenting, here's actually a good intro to the podcast. Parenting, I've always looked at as being a process of damage limitation. You can't stop your kids doing stupid shit. You can forbid them from doing stupid shit, but they're still going to do stupid shit because we did. If you look at your own life, if you're a parent and an adult, and you look back at your own life and think of all the shit you did when you were a kid that was stupid, your kids are doing it now, and you were forbidden to do it, I'm sure, just as I was. It didn't stop me for a second. It just meant I was afraid to say when I really fucked up and I needed help. And self-care comes into parenting, and that, my ex is one of these people who wants to be the children's best friend, which has spectacularly backfired on her. But existentially, she's always been of the mind where your children are not just front and center of your universe, but they're everything. And I see people writing about this on LinkedIn and other places. There's two things. First, I don't believe that they actually think that at all. And two, if you do, or you act as if it's true, it's really stupid. It's not helping you and it's not helping the kids. Sometimes it's entirely appropriate to tell your children to go off and entertain themselves while you have adults' time or self-time. Why do you think men shut themselves in the toilet with a fucking newspaper and the magazine for hours? Because it's the only time we get peace and fucking quiet. We need time by ourselves. Here's a good example. Mrs. EBG is suffering some very serious health problems, and they're not going away anytime soon. My job right now is to support her and give her the best life I possibly can. I can't do that if I'm not okay. If I was to devote 24/7 of my time to looking after Mrs. EBG at every moment of every day, I would burn out within a week and I wouldn't be able to do it anymore. In that respect, at times I have to put myself first. So I get up at 5:30, I go into the gym, and I do my cycling, and then I do my mobility exercises. And then I'll come into the house, I will prepare dinner for that evening, I'll feed the dogs, all that kind of stuff. At 7:30, I'll start pumping iron. But probably the first 3 or 4 hours of my day are focused on me, exercise, because that will keep me fit and strong and healthy. Mentally too, because physical exercise is brilliant for mental health. That will keep me fit too. So then, when I take Sarah a cup of tea at 8 o'clock in the morning in bed, from that point on, I'm refreshed, I'm energized, I'm strong, I'm fit and healthy. I can spend a lot more of the day that follows looking after her and sorting her out, as well as doing work and things.
It's the airplane analogy, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The oxygen mask, yeah. I was actually on a plane when just taking off out of Heathrow on the way to Arizona when the masks came down. A few funny things happened there. The first is I heard grown men screaming like girls. It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for them. I don't do embarrassment. I was embarrassed for them. They screamed like girls. And the first thing I thought was, oh, this is interesting. This could be cool. First thing I did was put the mask on because that's what you do. And the second thing I did was I just looked around me at who was screaming. And I saw people struggling to get the masks on their children. And they hadn't got their own masks on. They're panicking. Now, as it was, there was no emergency. What had happened was there was a guy in the back who was had one of these portable oxygen canisters. And they'd plugged him into the aircraft oxygen. And the co-pilot had just flicked the wrong switch to bring the oxygen masks down instead of bringing out the oxygen, just feeding it through to his circuit. So these masks came down. The pilot was pissing himself laughing on the intercom when he came through. But if that had been a real emergency, all those people, if we'd have been above 10,000 feet, would have gone unconscious very quickly and possibly died. And their children would have died too, because they hadn't put their own masks on, so then they could attend to their children. But I suppose it's when you see children gasping for air or just slowly slipping away into unconsciousness, you panic. Got to look after my kids. No, you sort yourself out first. The analogy is very clear, as you say. I need to run this business. I need to grow this business. I need to make money so me and Sarah are okay. Well, I can't do that if I'm burned out, spending all my time focusing on her.
And it's the same with the relationship that you have with your clients. People will call you selfish, but you understand it's necessary to look after yourself in order to do your best work. it gets a hell of a lot easier. And one of the very, very few reasons I'm grateful for you, John, is we have this innate understanding about it. And we understand that work is secondary to whatever we need to do to look after ourselves.
I think we should be selfish. I don't think selfishness is the problem. I think the view of selfishness, the opinion, the perception of selfishness in society is wrong. There's a lady called, she's dead now, called Ayn Rand, A-Y-N Rand, R-A-N-D. And she wrote a couple of, at least 2 novels I'm aware of, Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead. I suggest everybody reads those. They're not great works of literature, and the characterization's a bit flat, but the message those books give is absolutely paramount. And they changed my life. But she also wrote a couple of more serious books, and one of which is called The Virtue of Selfishness. And it's on that theme. I can't give my best to my family, my wife, my kids, my friends, the world, my clients, unless I'm okay. I can do better with those things operating from a place of strength. To be strong, I have to get strong. To get strong, I have to look after myself and work out and all those things. And I don't just mean physically strong. I have to educate myself. So selfishness is actually a virtue. There's no better thing to say to someone, look, I can look after you and take care of you and serve you and help you. But first, I have to be strong to do it. You need to allow me to do that.
Don't know how we got to this place where selfishness is seen as incredibly bad. I suppose it's like everything. It goes back to our upbringings. Don't be selfish. Share your toys.
Yeah. I think a lot of it goes back, as many problems in our society do, all the way back to religion. And I don't think, this might surprise a lot of people for me to say this, I don't think fundamentally the problem is the way the religion is laid out or how the holy books are written. I think it's people's interpretation of it. As Jordan Peterson points out, for instance, when the Christian Bible, the New Testament, talks about the meek shall inherit the earth, what people don't see or think about is he's actually talking about warriors who sheathe their swords and then act meekly, as opposed to people who are weak and act meekly. The two are completely different. You can be humble and you can be self-effacing and you can be all these things, but be strong. Whereas weak people have no choice. So meekness is not necessarily weakness. Hey, there's a poem there, mate. It rhymes. But yeah, looking after yourself is absolutely paramount. It really is. And I see this all the time. And one in particular, just before I came off social media, there was a lady, she was a young woman, and it was almost like a cry for help. She was saying how burned out she was with social media, because I think she was employed in an agency, and she was a social media account manager for a bunch of clients. And she felt she had to be permanently, one, on social media, monitoring their accounts, and two, at the beck and call of these clients. If they spotted something, she had to attend to it immediately. So her phone was constantly going off. Her desktop was constantly going off. I guess if she had a tablet, that was constantly going off too. And she couldn't get into any work. She was a classic example of what Andrew Huberman talks about: context switching, doing lots of things and none of them very well. And she was burning out. The point I made is, well, you don't have to do any of this. One, you can change the way you work. And two, if your employees and your clients won't allow that, get a different job, get different clients, or start your own business and run it your way. But she was then a martyr. No, I can't do that. My clients need me. My employer needs me. Okay, be the martyr. But you were the one who paid the consequences. Here we have the blame equation. Choices plus actions equal consequences.
Easy as that, isn't it, really?
It is really, yeah.
We're not saying don't work ridiculously hard, be a big softie, constantly going back into bed because you need it and whatnot. No, we're saying the opposite. We're saying work incredibly fucking hard, but have bumpers in place to stop you teetering over the edge and falling into oblivion. So, for example, having a hard stop every day. I will not work past this point. It can be as late as you like, but if that bumper isn't there, there will be times where you work past it. It could be around limiting exposure to certain things that are inherently bad. It could be checking your emails twice a day rather than having the tab constantly open with notifications set to always allow.
Do people do that?
They do. I have a look in the morning and then a quick check at lunch, just on my phone, scrolling through, just to make myself aware I'm not actually actioning any emails then. But just so I've got a little idea of what I'm running into at the end of the day when I do a final check and close up shop.
Yeah, this boils down to one of the most important strategies for self-care. One is to just say you're going to do it. and then put a plan in place for doing it. And what you need to underpinning all this is something we go on about in not just Core Control, but also Core 28, and it underpins all our work. There are some things underpinning all our work, one of which is sell to the right people, decide what kind of life you want. But even before you decide whom you're going to sell to, you need to have rules and boundaries in place. Rules and boundaries ensure self-care. I mean, I'm not holier than thou, by the way. I'm not one of these gurus who's spouting off at, I get up and do 20 minutes fucking yoga while I'm sitting on the toilet kind of stuff. I gave you my routine earlier in the day just to demonstrate why I do what I do, not out of any self-righteousness, but because that's what I have to do because I've got a busy day otherwise. But here's I would say my routine, but here's my regime, here's my environment, if you like. On my phone, I don't have any email. I have no social media at all. I do have WhatsApp. I have text messages, obviously, and the phone itself. What else do I have? And I have Google Chat, right? Now, the only notifications I am allowed are Google Chat, because that comes from within the business, which is important, really important sometimes. I also allow my fitness apps to message me to tell me about my progress throughout the day. Hey, that's really fucking selfish, isn't it? My fitness apps get to fucking notify me, but clients never do. WhatsApp has no notifications. With everything but a handful of things, oh yeah, the moon phases, that notifies me too, because I just like it. Other than stuff which is to do with self-care, the business, and stuff I'm just interested in, which is also self-care, the only thing which ever notifies me, sends me a notification, is text, because I always get important text. Things like authentication numbers, deliveries from Anpost and FedEx and people. But otherwise, I have no notifications. That's my phone. When I go to bed at night, my phone stays downstairs. So from about 8:30, 9 o'clock, my phone, you message me, you WhatsApp me. I have to go into WhatsApp to see if you've messaged me, but that ain't happening between the hours of about 9 o'clock in the evening and 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, something like that. All right. On my desktop, no notifications at all. If I wanted to check an email, I have to fire up the app, I'll look at it, answer what I need to do, a couple of 3 times a day, close it down. I don't have any social media anywhere. That's all to do with self-care, mental and physical.
Yeah, the big takeaway that people should be getting from that is every action you have is intentional. Everything that you're giving time to is intentional. It's, hey, I need to have a look at this and I'm going to give it a little bit of time. Even when it comes to non-business stuff, such as WhatsApp with your mates in all your groups and those filthy groups that I know you're a part of, everything's got a rule, everything's got a boundary, and everything is intentional. You're not being distracted a million times a day. The average notification on someone's phone, just for push notifications, is 50 a day.
Fucking hell.
Just on your phone.
Imagine you've got an 8-hour working day. That's approximately 6 and a bit times per hour. Once every 10 minutes on average, you're getting a notification. I strongly encourage people to look up Andrew Huberman on YouTube and watch some of his videos, because the damage done by notifications is far more than just, oh, it takes my attention away. That's damaging enough. But it actually starts to, and people use this phrase all the time and they use it wrongly, but this is a correct use of the term. It starts to rewire your brain. You will form neural connections because you're getting dopamine addicted to the reward of something new. Human physiology and psychology is evolved to notice and be interested by new things, because new things in our environment, in our stable environment, have the possibility of interrupting our homeostasis, killing us. So we notice new things. We've got an entire industry devoted to new things. It's called the news. All right. This is not an accident. We have evolved this way. So notifications, especially from social media and things, alerting us to trivially new stuff, gives us a massive reward. Context switch, it's called. There's 3 problems with it. 1, it takes our attention off what we're doing. Hard to get it back. 2, it tends to, over time, rewire our neurology. So we come to expect it. We're like the rat hitting the bar, starves to death, pushing electric current into its fucking brain rather than eating food. Now, that's an actual experiment, and they've shown it works. We ain't that different from rats, you know? We're not. And the third thing it does is it gives us this feeling of accomplishment, the dopamine reward of achievement, without what now, only quite recently, scientists are beginning to realize is important. And that is the value we get from achieving something when we've earned it, the pleasure we get, the reward we get from effort. This is a cliche we're all aware of, I'm sure. The rich person who's made his or her money and is a solid member of the community and is well respected, and his bratty children who are not. They don't know how to handle the money. They're always getting in trouble. They lose their fortunes as quickly as they're given. And why is this? Well, it's because, again, science is now showing this, the underlying reasons for it. They've been given the reward of all this money and a lavish lifestyle without the maturity, the pleasure, and the wisdom and the sense of achievement they get from working for it. I don't think much of Tony Robbins, to be fair. I don't like him. I think he's quite duplicitous and all the rest of it. But I heard a snippet, funny enough, it's in the techno track, a snippet of something he said about, in pursuit of your dreams, you will suffer heartbreak, you will suffer struggle, you will suffer failure. But in doing that, you will learn things about yourselves you don't know right now. You are more powerful than you can possibly imagine. He's right. You know, much as I dislike him, I'm not going to argue with the truth.
Nothing worth having ever comes easy. Nothing good. Last but not least, let's make sure they're walking away with something actionable, mainly tied to self-care and burnout. Have you got any tangible suggestions that they can go away and do for self-care?
Let's start with this. Let's start with a few rules and boundaries, because this is where it will all start. This is where it will live and die. If you don't do this, anything you decide to do probably won't happen. So here's what you do. Decide some rules and boundaries about your working hours. When will you allow clients to contact you and how? That's dead simple. There are more rules and boundaries you should set, but let's start with those. Because if you answer the phone at 7 p.m. when you're having tea with your kids and your spouse, and you get on the phone to talk to a client, what that is telling the client is, it's okay to call me at 7 p.m. when I'm having tea with my kids and spouse. That's okay. You can do that anytime. So rules about when they can contact you and how. The simplest way to implement all this is to refuse to take any calls without an appointment. So get yourself a free Calendly account. Set yourself a schedule. And when anyone says, can we talk? Even if you're not charging them for these calls, which is fine, depending on the circumstance, they have to go through this process of booking a call. So you limit contact. Second thing is, again, don't reply to emails or DMs immediately. Give it at least a couple of hours, preferably overnight. That's limiting contact with people and access. Second thing I want you to do is, it's along the same lines, is take all the social media apps off your phone. If you're feeling really brave, take email off your phone too. If you can't do any of that, at least turn off notifications from all of them. If you use WhatsApp a lot, yeah, keep that by all means. I use it quite a lot with clients and friends. It's partly work, partly entertainment, but I've still turned off notifications. So turn off notifications on your phone from every app which is either to do with clients or is not necessary for your well-being. So things which you do with fitness, fine, keep it on. Things which you do with entertainment, fine, keep them on. And I don't class social media as entertainment before you start.
No, that's mind-numbing.
Fitness and health, self-care, yeah. Important stuff, possibly. I say I'll keep text messages and chat with these guys. But everything else, turn it off. And do the same on your desktop too. Close your browser tabs. So basically, be as disconnected as you can. Make it so that social media and email are things you have to look at intentionally, as Connor said. And they're not there to distract you from your work. Just doing those things will make a massive difference to all of you.
Couple of things. Little tactical tweaks to add to that. Set your phone to black and white. You'll find yourself not picking it up as frequently for the quick check because it becomes incredibly boring to look at. It looks far less like a slot machine. I'm pretty sure I got that one from, I can't remember his name, not Andrew Huberman, something Daily, I think is, it doesn't matter. I can't remember his name. He's a neuroscientist that runs a marketing agency. And he releases tips like that every now and again. And he said, stick your phone in black and white and you'll stop the impulse check because you're not looking at pretty colors anymore. The other thing is the bullshit excuse we usually get back, and it's typically from men in construction, is, oh, the way I manage everything is on my phone. And sometimes I get message on Instagram, Facebook, this, that, and the other. If you're too dense to be able to use a desktop and use that intentionally, get yourself an iPad, make it a work iPad, and you can have all your social media apps and whatnot on there. And the third thing is, on your calendar, schedule in times to waste and just call it wasted time and freely use social media. We're not complete savants. We're not saying ditch it completely and forever. We think that's optimal, but we know it's not what everyone will do. So set up that intentional time to waste time and don't confuse yourself. Don't lie to yourself and say, well, this time on Facebook is productive. Probably 5% of that time is productive. 95% of that is waste.
Cal Newport talks about that in Deep Work. the incremental benefit of being on things like LinkedIn and Facebook, and you convince yourself that it's vital. But as you say, it's probably 5%, and you ain't going to notice it. And what you'll gain from not doing it is far greater. So is your phone on black and white?
Yeah.
Good man.
Has been for a while.
I didn't know that one. I think you might have mentioned it before. I probably ignored you.
Probably, like most things. Black and white, and I've got the screen, what's it called? Screen time app set up.
All right, yeah.
So every time I open an app, it asks for my passcode.
Oh, how annoying.
Exactly. And that's the point. I can't instinctively just grab it. You look at it now and it instantly unlocks. They're so fucking good. You glance at it and you see that little satisfying unlock. And you're like, okay, maybe I'll just swipe up, see what's in there. If every time you click an app, you have to enter in your passcode, that's so fucking annoying. And it forces you to pause and go, what am I doing? I'm entering my passcode that is fucking 8 digits long to go on TikTok to look at 15-year-old girls, and I'm a 40-year-old man with a family, with kids, and with a business that isn't doing as well as I'd like, and I'm about to sit here for half an hour looking at 15-year-olds? You fucking mental.
Yeah, guys, if you take one thing away from this episode of the podcast, take away that sentence Connor has just said. You're a 40-year-old businessman unlocking your phone to watch 15-year-old girls dancing, and your business isn't doing as well as it could, and you're about to watch young girls dancing. Nothing wrong with that, but it's a case of priorities, isn't it? Don't ever let me hear you complaining about how shit business is when you're spending time watching birds dancing and shit. Seriously.
I think we're done, mate. What do they do? Where do they go?
Wellfedbusiness.com.
We've recently released our plan for 2023, and if you're interested in the podcast, it's vital you watch it, because you're going to get a hell of a lot more from us. For the first time ever, we're going to be allowing questions from people that aren't particularly clients. They would have paid us something, because that's the only way to get into the bronze community. We're releasing free courses on a regular schedule to help you get up to the mark. And none of this is altruism. The reason we're doing this is to help you get up to the mark where we can actually work with you, where you've got a proper business and you've got leads and you've got clients and you're making some steady sales, because that makes our life a hell of a lot easier to go in there and take you to the moon. If you're interested in what those plans are, go to wellfedbusiness.com/2023. That's the numbers -plan. There's a short video there, I believe it's 15 minutes long, and it details what courses we're releasing and when. A weekly little insight into EBG's mind that's exclusive to bronze members, and a few other bits. We've already got 250 odd people in there. It's a community full of like-minded people who are all trying to become the premium authority within their niche and finally take control of their business once and for all. I'm going to practice that close because that was a little bit all over the place, but ultimately go to wellfedbusiness.com/2023-plan. And if you want to work with us privately, email holly@wellfedbusiness.com.
You've got your instructions, listeners. Fuck off and do it.
Yeah, thanks for listening.